These winter days are frosty but sunny. It takes a while for the frost to melt, but once it does, I can be out in the sunshine tending to my garden. The sunny days also mean I can use our electric oven to cook the most perfect gluten-free bread. I duck in and out of my garden while I wait for each step of the bread-making process to finish. In these moments, I slowly prepare my day of gardening. The first job is to take the netting off. This way, the garden will have dried out enough for me to start harvesting and weeding, and I won't get too wet myself.
It is a glorious day today, my friends, and I'm so happy to be having a couple of days in the garden this week and it be beautiful weather like this. I'm currently harvesting Brussels sprouts from these plants here, but at the same time I'm going to take some of the leaves because I've been dehydrating my brassica leaves of recent. Because we've had sunny days, I've been able to have the dehydrator on in our off-grid solar system, and so I'm choosing a few leaves today because I've already emptied it again and I'm ready to load it up and make some more green powder with these leaves. There are some leaves that are just past it. I'm not going to take any that are yellow or that have holes in them. This is okay. This deep purple, this sort of happens with the brassicas in the cold, so that's just perfectly fine to use. And I'm also being careful not to take all of the leaves, obviously. The plant needs a lot of the leaves. And at the same time, I'm picking out these larger Brussels sprouts to cook up for dinner tonight. And there are a lot of Brussels sprouts here. I haven't harvested for a couple of weeks, so we're going to have a nice amount for our dinner. Some of the Brussels sprouts that are lower down on some of the plants I haven't gotten to in time, and they've started to open up, which is perfectly fine. They're still edible. They're just not in their tight ball that they're normally in. Here's another example of one that's opened up. So there it is, all opened up. Still edible though. This plant has much smaller ones than some of the other plants in this bed. I love how you can just snap off Brussels sprouts and they're ready to go. They're so easy to harvest. So I've got a lot of weeding to do these next few days and I'm hoping to get on top of some of these areas. I've also got to mow around my vegetable patches because everything has just grown rapidly over the past few weeks and it's getting away a bit. So I'm curious to know what you guys are all doing in your gardens at the moment, if you're actually getting out yet or if it's still too cold for you. I'm amazed with the heat today. It is probably going to get up to about 16 degrees and that sun has quite a bite to it. So I've got the sun hat on. I don't need a neck scarf at all or a beanie, and I'm actually almost at the point where I need to take off my woolly jumper. So making a green powder with these large brassica leaves that sometimes, I might cook with some of these, but other times I just want to break them down into something more palatable. Now, the small leaves on brassicas are perfect for throwing in stir fries or cutting up really finely and putting in sauces. There are so many different dishes that we can add our leaves into. But when we've got an excess of leaves, it's great to make a powder that we can then sprinkle onto things, add into sauces, add into an omelette, making green pancakes. The list of ideas is really endless. And then we're getting all of those nutrients from the green leaves. So I really love having a green powder on hand all year round. I think this one wins the prize. It is massive. Look at it. It is huge. That's a normal sized one. Huge. So I've got one plant here where it's not really producing many Brussels sprouts, but I can use its leaves to make a green powder and it doesn't go to waste. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions about how I grow such healthy brassicas. And basically my answer every time is calcium. Making sure you have enough calcium in the soil to support the plants. Now, when we were living in Melbourne, we read a whole heap of books. My husband and I read different books each so that we could get through enough of the books. And I haven't read these particular books, which led me to using calcium to keep the bugs and insects away from my brassicas. But my husband did. He read all of them. There are a lot of them. And they're all the studies that this group of people did. But basically, for decades, they did tests and trials. I think it was government initiated. So it's quite amazing back then what the governments would initiate. So basically, they had rows and rows of on this farm, and they would treat the different rows with different things. And the row that was treated with calcium, when they released the bugs, it never got attacked. So I am the main food grower on our farm, and my husband told me this. He said, you just need to treat the soil, replace the calcium each time you've harvested. So each autumn and spring, I put gypsum or dolomite and lime into the soil to get my calcium into the soil so that the plants can get the calcium from the soil. And every year I am growing the most magnificent brassicas without damage from pests. So I recommend that you give it a go. Let me know how you go. It might take a few seasons for the calcium to fix into the soil and for your levels to get to the proper amount. I recommend doing a soil test. However, you don't need much. I sprinkle the tiniest amount onto my beds, and every year, twice a year, I'm sprinkling that onto the soil, and I'm still able to grow these magnificent plants. And it makes sense, really. The plants are taking from the soil, so we have to replenish it. Well, I've harvested a good amount of Brussels sprouts here. I've still got a few more to go, so I'm going to keep going with them. And once I've finished here, I'm going to go and harvest some cauliflowers and broccolis. As well as having healthy soil for your brassicas to grow well, it's ideal that we keep the water up to them. Every vegetable needs watering, and we can sometimes forget to water over winter because it's colder. We feel like the dew is enough, but it's not. If you think about it, when you pass all of the farms that are growing our food, all those crops are getting watered quite often. In fact, most of them are getting watered every day. So we need to make sure that we're watering our vegetables so that they can actually grow great heads of broccoli. These are sprouting broccolis and they're almost going to seed. I can see some of the flowers are starting to poke through the florets here. So I'm going to throw these into a stir fry for lunch today. It's really easy just to come out here and pick a handful of them and throw them in, and you can even pick some of the young leaves. I've got some of the young leaves intact with the little sprouting broccolis, but I can also harvest a few more leaves and throw them in with the stir fry. Oh wow, I have a most magnificent kohlrabi growing here. Look at that. That is massive. And I can use all of these leaves as well. So much good nutrients in that. I'm going to use this kohlrabi tonight. So along with putting calcium into the soil, I also like to top up with manure and compost. And I find these things are just enough to feed my garden, but I'm replenishing every autumn and spring, just like I do with the gypsum or the dolomite and lime. Well, I've got all of these vegetables here to process today. I'm going to take them inside, make my lunch, and then come back out and do some weeding. I'm waiting for my cabbages to be ready to harvest. They are almost getting there. They're looking so healthy and really happy in this garden bed here with a massive amount of cow manure that I put down in spring last year, and then I topped it up just a little bit in autumn when I planted the cabbages into the ground. But I had potatoes in here in summertime, and the potatoes didn't do all that well. And I had lettuces in here as well, and some of those lettuces went to seed, and now I've got all these little babies coming up everywhere in amongst all of the brassicas I have planted here, along with some onions down the middle. It's amazing how much you can fit into this area. You just have to make sure that you keep the water up to them, because everything's sort of fighting for the water that is coming down from the sky and is coming out of the irrigation pipes. So I just have to make sure that everything's getting enough water, especially these brassicas. They take up a lot of water. So thank you so much for coming along with me today and having a fossick in my garden to see what we could find. I can't wait to cook these Brussels sprouts up. I love them so much, and having homegrown ones this year is just such a treat. Don't forget to send me a comment down below and let me know what you've been up to in your garden this winter. We shall see you next time.